I was asked to join you all and talk a little bit about some of Visa's work in the space of the humanitarian response, in particular an area called cash transfers, and the work that we're doing to electronify cash transfers. To start off, first of all, it's not a commercial for us, or I won't go into who we are, but we are one of the most misunderstood companies. Everyone thinks that we issue cards. Everyone thinks that, oh, you issued my Visa card. We're a payments technology network. And we work with thousands of financial institutions. We work with millions of merchants. We work with billions of consumers, and then hundreds of governments. And we're the network in between that is helping enable the movement of money from one point to another point. And I mention that because that's going to come back into how we play in the humanitarian space. So there is this. How many people have heard of this concept of humanitarian cash transfers? OK, so I won't spend too much time because it was almost every hand in the room. So as we've heard repeatedly over the last hour or so, we understand there's a perception and there's a feeling that the humanitarian community is stretched, overstretched beyond capacity, that we really need to look at new ways, new innovative ways to be involved and to respond to humanitarian crises. Well, there's what has been called a quiet revolution going on in humanitarian aid delivery, and that is this transition from, if you think of the heavy humanitarian footprint that comes in, and the cargo planes come in, and there's supplies, and there's food, and there's shelter, and there's clothing, and everything else needed. There's been a transition to, well, in the right context, in the right settings, when local markets are still operational, it can be better, and data is out there to show that it can be better, to give families that were impacted money rather than giving them goods. It can be better for being less disruptive to the local economy. It can be better to give families that flexibility of receiving money and making decisions about what are they going to purchase, what are their needs. Their needs may not be a bag of flour. Their needs may be something different. So there is this rise in the use of cash transfers slowly. I think the last data I saw was it used to be 1% of humanitarian aid spending in about 2004. Maybe it's 6% now, but there's a lot of momentum. It's probably a curve going this way. So there's been a lot of focus on it. But why Visa? Well, and it's kind of jumping ahead a little bit. It's a lot of these cash transfers have been literally physical cash, either cash in envelopes or paper vouchers. Cash in envelopes or cash strapped, like thousands of dollars strapped to relief workers' bodies, putting them in very dangerous positions. Also, a lack of accountability and transparency around who received that money. Did the right recipient actually get the money that they're entitled to? So where we have been involved in is similar to the slides that we saw earlier, is this intersection between what we do for a living, which is we believe and we strive to be the best way to pay and be paid for everyone everywhere. And we're about using a suite of products and enabling the electronic movement of money, growing acceptance in more places and new different ways that you would use an electronic transaction instead of cash or check, working toward full electronification. So that's the business side. And on a societal side, we're about improving lives and the things I get to do for a living around making sure we're a good citizen and that we're giving back and strengthening communities and ensuring people have financial tools through financial literacy and that we're environmentally responsible in our sustainability work. And this is a nice right in the middle sweet spot for us in that we can actually bring our core DNA, what we've been doing for 50 years, which is enabling this electronic movement of money, into a new model. We were talking about what would be the business case for us. I mean, let me be clear. We do not make money off of humanitarian disbursements. We are not making money off humanitarian crises. But what we are doing is we are deepening relationships with governments. We are working with consumers who for the first time, in one of the major responses that we've done in Pakistan, there was a study that DFID did after the cash disbursement program that we helped do via prepaid card. It said 96% of the people were touching electronic money for the first time. I mean, they were getting a prepaid card. They were dealing with money they couldn't touch and hold in their hands for the first time. So that, for us, is these are going to be future consumers, hopefully sooner than later, but down the road. But these are opportunities for us to learn about new markets, to, as I said, deepen the relationships there, to work with some bank partners, with merchant partners. And that, for us, combined with the social impact that we can have, the feeling that our employees can have to see that they come to work. And it's nice that, and I write a lot of checks, I shouldn't say that. I give out a lot of prepaid cards to nonprofits. And employees feel good about that, but when they really see, like, oh, I'm on the mobile team, and I'm part of the prepaid team, and I just read a story about how Visa helped these people in these different markets in a disaster, I think that comes back to the points that were made around the employee benefits of all this. So we do a range of things in this space, and I'll talk about a couple examples in a minute, but we are involved with a number of implementations. We have funded a number of pilots. We've worked with our good friends at NetHope on innovation grants to a number of nonprofits and major NGOs who were looking at how they can bring electronic payments into both their internal operations, but also into a disbursement model. And then we also support a number of organizations on research and capacity building. So if you're interested in this topic at all, check out the Cash Learning Partnership. It's another great, check out NetHope. Check out Cash Learning Partnership, a consortium of humanitarian groups focused on this topic of cash transfers. We funded a disaster research project with GSMA, looking at mobile money for displaced persons. So we do a lot of work, not just the implementations. But just to bring this to life, two examples real quickly. One, Rwanda. So the context of Rwanda is that we know that for many, many years now, there's been a sizable refugee population in Rwanda coming from DRC. There are at least 5 camps that have been there for a very long time, UN-based camps. There's been food relief provided for many years. The World Food Program has been there, UNHCR has been there, and there literally has been food disbursement in the past. And people, once a month, wait in hours-long lines to receive this food. There's high cost to this. These are literally like almost an 8-hour line for families to wait for. There were a couple goals that were being sought after here. World Food Program and others wanted to actually improve food security. They wanted to do some goals around dietary diversity. Others wanted to make it a better experience for those impacted. A word that comes up over and over in this space too is dignity. So a lot of those that were receiving money electronically as a result of this project talked about the dignity of no longer having to wait in line for 8 to 10 hours to receive a food handout. So that is what we ended up launching, is something that we took a technology solution in Rwanda that was actually developed with the help of Frog called M-Visa, an interoperable mobile money system. And it was running in Rwanda. We were approached by WFP and UNHCR and started using the M-Visa system to make a financial payment to the heads of households in the refugee camps. So they're now receiving that electronically. They can actually pay via mobile phone at surrounding markets that have been set up. It's bringing an influx of economic value into those markets, and has been a significant opportunity for those impacted to have just a better experience in a very trying situation. The other one I'll just say briefly is the Philippines. So if you are looking to pilot something and you're looking for in the humanitarian space, and you're looking for a market that is susceptible to disaster year and year again, you can't really get better than Philippines, which has almost everything. It has typhoons, floods, tsunamis. I believe it has volcanoes. Locusts, I think, are coming. So Philippines is definitely impacted time and time again. And in this case, Oxfam approached us. And we want to do a prepaid card. We want to try doing a cash disbursement program. We want to do it via prepaid card. And not only that, we know that people are going to be impacted over and over. We actually want to give out the prepaid card ahead of time. It's going to have no value on it. But when a disaster comes, and it will come year after year, we will then determine, you all with the government and others, who was impacted. And then we'll work with you, Visa, and the bank partners to then load money into those accounts of those people impacted. So it even speeds up the delivery of this solution because people already have the card, the account's already set up in their name, the money is just loaded in afterward. And you can do it one time, you can do it on a recurring basis. So we piloted it. It's a relatively small pilot, but now it's going to be expanding out across the Philippines. We're bringing in some mobile network operators as well in the Philippines because a lot of people are using mobile money there in that market. And it's been, for us, the pilot, we measure success in a number of ways. We really rely on the humanitarian groups like Oxfam to measure more of what was the impact on those receiving this. Our measurement was actually, as a technology company, and I'll talk about this point a little bit on the panel, is we know what we know, and we're looking at, did it work? Was it effective? Did the transactions go through? And we saw 100% success with transactions. 95% people increased using the prepaid card to buy goods rather than just going up to an ATM and pulling out cash and going right back to a cash lifestyle with all the vulnerabilities that come with that. And the thing that we found most interesting, I'll wrap up here, is 45% of the cards had a balance on them when we went back and looked 2 months later. We thought, all right, maybe this is a failure. They didn't understand that this money was for them. They should be using it. And when we interviewed the people who had received the money and had these balances, they said, no, I know that money is there. I know I'm probably going to be impacted again in the future. So this is what I'm going to call my disaster emergency fund. So it almost became, for many of these people, they're unbanked and they're outside of the financial system. It became a quasi-savings account. And I can't call it that for regulatory reasons, but for them, that's how they were treating it. So we're actually pulling in more of the bank role more and looking at how to transition these people who have the balances into a regulated savings account that can gain interest and that can be more protected. So I think that was one of the unintended consequences, a positive one that we were not going in with the solution to look for, but came out of it. But I'll just wrap up there, and then we can move to our panel. So thank you.